What is up everyone, welcome back to another video. In this new OG Fortnite season, obviously ranked recently reset and a lot of people are back on the grind to Unreal. Whether it's your first time trying to get super high in rank or if you've been at it for a long time, all of us want to reach that super high rank. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you exactly how to do that. I'll be giving you guys everything you need to know to reach Unreal as fast as you possibly can in Fortnite OG. Before we get into the video, be sure to drop a like on the video, it helps a lot. Subscribe to the channel if you're new as well, and if you want to see a lot more tips and tricks content you'll see in the future. With that said, we have a lot to cover, so let's get straight into it. So getting into the first thing I want to talk about in today's video, and that's going to be the best game mode. This is one of the most common arguments and the most common question that people have about the rank mode. They wonder if playing solos, duos or squads in particular is going to make them rank up more than the other ones. And it's understandable to wonder that because Epic really does not do a great job of making it clear what actually makes you to rank up. However, based on what I have been seen from pro players, my friends, and even on my own gameplay, I'm going to tell you guys that the best game mode to rank up is whatever game you have the most team for. So for example, if you have 4 really solid players, then squad is going to be the best game mode by far. If you have 4 really good players, then stomping through the lobby can either drop 30 or up to 40 kills, and obviously that's going to make you rank up dramatic amount. If you have yourself and 1 really good teammate, then the duos is going to be perfect. Obviously 2v2 fights are going to be much more manageable than 4v4s. Lastly, if you tend to be a player on your own, you don't have any great teammates to actually play with, then solos is going to be the move. So really, the biggest thing here is that it's going to be dependent on your own situation. There is no mode that is going to be better for everybody. In terms of actually ability to rank up, it is just about the same between all the game modes. The only real different factor here is going to be the teammates. By getting into our next section, and then the next thing we want to talk about is the meta and optimal strategy. Of course, the first thing you really need to focus on when it comes to ranking up fast is optimize your play style to match the meta. Now the meta is going to change pretty rapidly throughout the OG Fortnite season, since we are switching between seasons. But the current meta is definitely a bit an interesting one. At the time I'm making this video, keep in mind it's going to change, but currently healing items barely spawn, or at least they spawn at a very limited level. I'm telling you guys, you can loot like 3 or 4 houses and you're not gonna get any shields at all. It is crazy, and hopefully they fix it soon. Oftentimes, if you try to fight a lot of players and run aggressive playstyles, you're going to end up getting killed simply because you run out of heals. And therefore, the biggest thing that I can recommend you guys is to focus on getting good loot and heals before you start to fight a lot of players and start running that aggressive playstyle. If you can start your game in a more passive way, secure a good amount of healing items, and then start pushing into fights, you're going to end up on a great HP, fighting mostly against people with little to no healing items. And I'm telling you guys, it makes things so much easier when you have 200 HP and extra heals and you're running into people who have less than 100 HP. That is one of the biggest ways you can give yourself an advantage in fights this season. So it's definitely something to keep in mind. So overall, definitely focus on getting plenty of healing items before you push into any fights. It is not going to be possible every single game. Sometimes you're going to be contested, but overall, it's a good thing to shoot for. And this should make a massive difference in allowing you to place high consistently and ultimately get more kills in the current meta. If healing items begin to spawn more and more after I make this video, or they happen in the siphon back or anything of that nature, then of course the more aggressive playstyle is going to be tolerable. So definitely keep an eye on for that. With all that aggression talk in mind, I generally recommend landing at a POIs that is either quiet. I generally recommend landing at a POI that is either quiet in general or landing at a POI that is away far from the boss, taking that extra time in early game to get kitted up. And that way, once you begin pushing in the later part of early game and into the mid game, you're going to go in with big health advantage most of the time and be much more consistent. One big key to keep in mind here is in the ranking system, kills later in the game count for more regardless. You actually do gain more rank if you get kills in mid or late game compared to the early game stages. Outspawn kills really don't count for too much. Obviously, they're still going to benefit you, and you'll still gain percentage from getting early game kills, but they are not going to be the same as mid or late game kill. So the biggest key here is to focus your early game primarily on setting yourself up for a good mid and end game. Hopefully that makes a lot of sense. Another aspect of playing to the new meta here is there's some items you should carry. Although it's frustrating to fight against, there is really not denying that the explosives currently are the most OP in the game. You have got the RPG, the grenade launcher, regular grenades, sting bombs, and they're most likely to go end up any clingers and potentially other, well, especially in the team modes, especially in squads. If you have multiple players carrying explosive at the same time, even though people are going to say it's a cringe way to play and is super effective way to kill, I'm telling you guys, half the time I die in ranked, it's pretty much because I get spammed by a grenade launcher, but really it's hard for me to actually get mad, because that's, frankly, it is just a smart way to play. We can argue all day about how it's really stupid to have a bunch of OP grenades and stuff like that in the game, but the fact of the matter is they are there, so you might as well just take advantage of them. But that's it for my rant about explosives. Another aspect of that is going to be more utility items, in particular mobility. I found that Rift to Ghosts are pretty good spawner rate nowadays, and if you're able to hold onto some, then you're absolutely amazing. For mid-game rotation, especially if you've got a good setup and you want to play for endgame and get a win, you can use it to rotate to that side super easily and play a really, really smart game. And grapplers are also super amazing for the endgame. I would say Rift to Ghosts are a good option for the endgame, but I'm going to recommend them slightly less than grapplers, because they are only one use, and they are a really good way to get hide really quick or something like that, especially if you can coordinate a push with your team. But the most consistent options is going to be the grapplers for that. Overall though, you're definitely going to want to take advantage of mobility if possible, and whether you use it to push for more kills or play a safer strategy, it's your call. It is going to really depend on what you do with the healing spawn rate, what they do with Siphon, and how the overall game looks throughout the season. The next tip I have for you guys is one that's really, really important one, and that a lot of people overlook, and it's what reviewing your games, especially if you find yourself struggling to rank up or stalling out in a certain division. This is going to be the key to getting you out of that. So one of the most important ways to make sure you rank up consistently is to VOD review your games in the replay mode, to see what you did right and wrong and see causes of your death in your games. By finding your biggest mistakes and then correcting them, you're going to find yourself playing much more consistent and dying to silly things less often. If you can actually see what's getting you killed, it's much easier to counter it. Keeping an eye on what's actually happening in your games is one of the most overlooked aspects of overall improvement and ranking up, since most of the time people keep playing ranked mode after a game and making the same mistakes and not realizing it. So if you find yourself dying over and over again, take some games to auto review your games. I'm telling you guys, you're going to see a lot of stuff, and it's going to make a big difference figuring out what happened, figuring out how to improve for the next time, and you're going to see a dramatic improvement. Getting into our next little section here, and what is going to talk about the next fighting practice. Now of course, simply playing ranked on its own is going to give you some really good fighting practice and some very realistic fighting practice, but if you can also use creative as a supplement to that and really get some good practice in that way, you'll get a lot of touches really quickly. You're going to get into a lot of fights, and it will help you improve your mechanics, your aim, and your just overall fighting sense. So real quick, I want to cover 3 different maps that I recommend for this. The first one is going to be the Canbian Speed Realistic 1v1 map. This map is pretty much a simulation of you pushing an opponent in their box. It is going to be one-on-one fight, and it's mostly based in close range. It does turn into a build fight sometimes, but it's basically meant to simulate one person pushing another person's box in the game. It is really, really good concepts and a map I have been recommending for a while now. So I'll go ahead and put the code up in the screen that's right now. Getting into our next fighting practice map, and it's going to be the Raider 464 realistic box fights. What is this? This is a similar concept in the sense that is mostly based around close range and box fighting. But what this map does is actually basically puts you in a big box with your opponent and you're meant to stay in a close range and box fight. Since most fights this season revolve around box fighting, this is really good way to practice. It is not the most realistic in sense that it doesn't turn into build fights or anything like that. A lot of the fights do, but it keeps you in that close range in the box fighting environment, which is where probably 80 to 90% of your fights are going to end anyway. So targeting that area and playing a mixture of a short to mid-range fight like you do here, it's going to be really good for your ranked fighting, and it's going to help you out a lot. So I'll go ahead and put the code up on the screen for the Raider 464 realistic box fights. And finally, guys, getting into our third and last fighting practice map, and this one is going to be Finest realistic 1v1. This is just going to be your classic realistic 1v1. It's meant to simulate a mid-game fight. It's going to be realistic loot for you and against your real opponent. And you're going to be fighting however you would in a regular game. Essentially, this is just the type of fighting you're going to run into a ranked game, except it's going to be a controlled, creative environment. So you're going to be able to get more touches because you're fighting non-stop. And overall, it's going to be a really good practice. And I'll go and put up on the screen the code right now. Overall, all three of these maps are really good, and I definitely recommend you use them all in conjunction with one another. It should help you improve a whole lot, and the fighting is going to be very applicable to your actual rank games and help you to reach on Unreal very faster. So definitely spend some time in these fighting practice maps, you won't regret it. And finally, guys, the last little topic I want to talk about in this video is going to be a very simple one, which is time and consistency. The last thing you need to know when it comes to reaching Unreal rank in Fortnite is the simple fact that it's going to take a lot of time and you're going to have to be consistent. Even if you drop 20 bombs every single game, you're not going to be able to hit Unreal in just one day. It's simply just a long process that it takes some time. The odds are, if you play a normal amount, such as few hours a day, a couple times a week, it's almost certainly you're going to take at least a handful of weeks to reach Unreal, even if you play really good.